Spider-Man for the PS4 is a masterclass in storytelling, and the story that it tells is very human.
I can't take this.
You can, and you will.
I'll pay you back. Soon.
Just ask for help next time. Oh, you are so much like Ben. You have to learn to swallow that Parker pride and accept that you're human, like the rest of us.
When I first saw this scene, I wondered if Aunt May would feel the same way if she knew that Peter was Spider-Man. There are a lot of things to love about this game. It's ripe with detail and rich with content. The world and its characters feel alive. The combat is a perfect blend of the Batman Arkham series mixed with Spider-Man 2. My favorite detail of this game was how they integrated the backstory as a side quest. We all know the origin of Spider-Man, but it's in this different mechanic that the game allows the player the choice to discover it for themselves, which apparently they do. Nearly 75% of players achieved the Backpacker trophy, meaning they collected every single one of them. These backpacks tell us a story of why Peter is the way he is, the motivations that drive him and the toll it takes on his life. The more we unpack, the more we reveal an underlying narrative. Are the cost of living and the cost of being Spider-Man too high? Or is Peter simply bad with his money?
We start with a pan around Peter's bedroom. We see a crime wall, we see gadgets and clothes and empty food containers thrown around everywhere. The second that he gets a call, he springs into action. However, while he's calibrating his suit, we see an eviction notice slide right under the door. And Peter's smart enough that he even programmed a notification reminder to pay bills, because Spider-Man's usually too busy and there's no one Spider-Man won't save. The city needs a hero, more than Peter needs to pay his rent. So while they mull it over, Spider-Man wins and jumps right out the window. Choices like this often come up, and there are many times in the game where Peter has to schedule his personal life while wearing a spider suit.
Hi, Aunt May.
What is all that noise?
Watching a superhero movie. What's up?
I just wanted to make sure we're still on for dinner tomorrow night.
Totally. Listen, I gotta go.
Well, okay. Love you.
Love you too.
And it's hard to afford to actually pay for dinner when your paycheck literally stops coming.
Maybe we could start over.
Peter, there's no we. Without the grant from the city, I can no longer pay you.
Losing a paycheck is the last thing that Peter needs, especially when he's about to get evicted. It's during the mission Keeping the Peace when Spider-Man finds an old backpack webbed to the side of a brick wall. Inside, he finds the menu for the first date that he took MJ on. He says,
Wish I could have afforded someplace fancier.
this menu acts as a reminder that Peter's finances have had problems for the better part of a decade.
Wonder how many of these are scattered around the city.
I was curious about this myself, so I decided to Google it. It's 55. I'm absolutely certain that Peter would have a hard time affording one backpack, let alone 55 of them, especially when you have rent due. And I'm not the only one to notice this. According to a 2018 article on The Verge, they write an average JanSport backpack costs around $36. That's $1,980 worth of bags. Later in the game, you lose your apartment because you fell behind on rent. The next backpack that we find in the game is in Chinatown, and it contains a hospital bill for over $2,000. Now, Peter says that it takes him a long time to pay it off, but you have to think how. How could he do it? That's a lot of money. Maybe he had to take up a second job, perhaps delivering pizzas? Even in a fictional version of the world, the US healthcare system remains the most expensive. According to the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the US spends $10,500 per capita on healthcare. That's almost double the world average of developed countries. In 2019, the American Journal of Public Health published a study that found that 66.5% of bankruptcies were tied to medical issues. That's crazy. The journal also cites that 250,000 GoFundMe campaigns that occurred in 2018 were also specifically for just medical issues. These kind of expenses might lead someone to take a second job just to pay off a bill. Unfortunately, injuries are far too common in the hero business, and vigilantism doesn't have workers' compensation. Does it? I don't know. If Spider-Man were real, he might have to rely on crowdsourcing just to survive. It's painfully obvious that Spider-Man is constantly putting himself in danger. Several backpack items we find in-game tell us stories about the risks he's had to take, like the lens the Vulture cracked that almost blinded him, the brass knuckles Fisk beat him senseless with, and the chip of Rhino's horn he injured his back to obtain. These encounters do ultimately help him by giving him free tech upgrades. He uses these materials and methods and adapts them to his arsenal of equipment.
This piece of Mysterio's helmet gave me ideas for my eye lenses. Go ahead, sue me, fishbowl head.
Actually, if it comes to that, it's a good thing Spider-Man also finds the business card for one Matt Murdock. These gadgets would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop. His arm webs, the jammer he made to stop the Vulture, and the spider signal are all examples of tech that he developed that never panned out or became outdated. While other tech, like the Spider Tracer and his Mark I web shooters, were readapted to the collection of gadgets Spider-Man has at his disposal.
Peter always had to find creative ways to fund his lifestyle as Spider-Man. Maybe sometimes that takes the form of corporate handouts.
In other instances, Peter has admitted to taking coffee, snacks, and works on his own supplies in the lab from time to time. It's like raiding the office cabinet for post-its and pens, only you use these to fight crime.
Wonder what I could accomplish with a real budget instead of dumpster diving.
Because of his dumpster diving and the corners he's had to cut, he's had to learn to do far more with far less. The experimental labs left behind by Harry aren't just opportunities for Peter to help his friend, but for Spider-Man to develop new technology that he could use down the road. In 2017, he prepared an application for an apartment with MJ right before they broke up. The rent would have been $3,000 a month with $5,000 down payment. He lists on the application at the time that he was making $47,500 as a research assistant, which, according to Glassdoor, is $8,000 over the average salary for that position in New York. Though it did seem in 2018 things started to fall apart for Peter.
If you'd like to seek a position with more of a future.
I came here to work for you because of what you've got up here. And that's not going anywhere. So neither am I.
Is this his own fault? He doesn't need to be Spider-Man. He has a degree in physics. Dr. Octavius even calls him to assure him the money will come in just to make sure Peter is still committed. In instances like the one we just saw, Peter is eager to continue working for Dr. Octavius even if it means he won't get a paycheck.
Because I still haven't found another job.
My funds are still...
I know. It's okay. Don't worry, I'll figure it out. What's a few bucks when you're trying to change the world, right?
Several times, Otto leans on Peter's desire to do good in order to solicit his help without paying him. When he meets with MJ for dinner, she even notices how he speaks about the work.
How's it going with you? Did you get that promotion?
No, but we're on the cusp of something really big.
You know Oscorp would hire you in a heartbeat, right? One phone call to Harry.
Sure, but Dr. Octavius' work will help millions. I'm right where I want to be, right where I should be.
Almost sounds like it's more important than your other job.
When Norman Osborn comes to shut down the Octavius program, he even offers Peter a better paying job on the spot, just as MJ says.
Hey, Peter. Harry will be coming back from Europe early next year. Maybe the two of you can start that business you always talked about.
This is opportunity knocking.
A job that Peter once interviewed for. Science has always been Peter Parker's superpower, even before he wins the Wilson Fisk Science Prize.
My Wilson Fisk Science Prize trophy. And check. I couldn't turn it down without arousing suspicion, but no way was I gonna take his money, even though we could have used it. I did accept a lifetime supply of backpacks, though.
Hold on, did he say lifetime supply of backpacks? Because if that's the case, somebody has to tell The Verge. But wait, he didn't cash that check. His family could have used the money, but he turned it down. This changes things. If Peter needs the money, why does he turn down financial opportunities? Why take the backpack but not the money that obviously would have helped him and his family? We see a line that is drawn in terms of when Peter will accept help or resources from someone and when Spider-Man won't let him. We learn through recipes that he finds that Peter both loves and is horrible at cooking. Just take a look.
But, instead of coffee, maybe we could have dinner instead. I could come over, I'll cook.
Whatever you're cooking right now, it smells amazing.
The chicken curry, just needs some time to simmer.
No dumplings, I hope.
You're never gonna let me live that one down, are you?
Nope.
I was actually considering maybe a career change.
Hmm?
Yeah, I think I might want to become a chef.
I'm sorry, no, you're a scientist. A good one.
Not again.
It's a hobby and an occupation that he keeps revisiting. And why not? It saves money, right? According to Forbes, it's almost 5 times more expensive to order delivery from a restaurant than it is to cook at home. So if you actually sit down somewhere to eat, especially where there's tipping involved, one might tend to rely a bit more on the kindness of others or keep the meal incredibly light, like mixed french fries. But if the cause is just, does it make the action right? He can't take money from winning the Fisk Science Trophy, money he says he and his aunt really needed, but he can take a cash handout from his aunt with little resistance. By not cashing this check from Fisk, we see that it's a Spider-Man decision, not a Peter one. When he finds his glasses from high school, he says that he tells everyone that he paid for laser eye surgery with the money that he got from the Fisk Science Prize. He even laughs about it. Peter doesn't have an issue if people think he used money from Wilson Fisk. Spider-Man clearly is the one who does. Spider-Man isn't the one that's putting his name on apartment applications. It's Peter Parker. Peter Parker is the one that needs the money. Yet when Spider-Man has an opportunity to make money to be Spider-Man, which would, help Peter, Spider-Man quickly turns that down as well. We see this when the Taskmaster puts Spider-Man through dangerous challenges throughout the city, only to find out that it was a job interview for Spider-Man all along.
I'd rather be Jonah Jameson's foot masseur than work for anyone who'd hire you.
Your loss. They pay 6 figures. Guess some people just deserve to be poor.
6 figures? Nah.
However, when Peter finds the spider plushie, he's a bit more enthusiastic about it. So he doesn't mind if profit can be made from Spider-Man's image if the money comes from clean hands. That's probably why he felt it was okay that he could take pictures of Spider-Man, because they were coming from him. And for years, those same pictures that Peter sold of Spider-Man were used against him to hurt his own image. JJ hates Spider-Man so much that he eventually leaves the Bugle to start his own radio show that focuses on the Menace. And you'll never guess who one of his most avid listeners is.
Huh. Looks like Jameson's got a new episode out. Wonder what my #1 fan thinks about the Fisk takedown.
In his misguided delusion that he is protecting us, is he hacking into all our conversations? Big business. Why? Credit card transactions. What possible purpose could there be
Those
for
personal
such
calls with the wife when you're on a
behavior?
long,
I've thought about it
lonely
long and hard.
I mean, I think I
when
figured it out.
one is on a book tour, I wasn't talking about myself.
always
I don't
assumed
do that sort of
Spider-Man is
thing.
a man
And anyone who thinks they have recordings of me doing it is wrong.
What if it's the reverse? What if somehow
You heard
of the
getting
Goliath
the powers
bird-eating
on man.
spider? I'll spare you the gory details.
If he's
But
gonna
the spider
spy on us,
big enough to
let him
devour
hear that
birds.
we're on
Now,
to it
Spider-Man
by
sticks to
listening
walls
to
like a
me
spider, he jumps
every
like a spider.
waking
What else
moment.
does he do like a spider? Does anyone else
Now,
heard
some
reports of
people
Spider-Man literally
falsely
seeking out
say
clouds
I
of
make up
smog
stories
about Spider-Man?
Is this the behavior of a sane individual?
I'll tell you what I think is going on here. When I was a lad, there was a problem with video of Spider-Man
sniffing glue to get high.
But hey, your haters are your motivators, right, Spidey? Like and subscribe. I sometimes wonder if Peter thinks Jameson is right about Spider-Man. Does this show that constantly tracks and judges the movements of him act as a painful reminder that he's fighting a battle some think he doesn't have the right to fight? As you stop crime in the city, the commentary from JJ doesn't change, but the guest's favor towards Spider-Man does, adding a contrast to the negative bias against him. It's why he does what he does. So I think it's a tool of humbling modesty as much as a way to track his approval rating, because that's what he does it for. Approval. He needs to find the positivity where he can in order to justify the cost of his existence. Psychologist Amilcare, who introduced a form of psychotherapy using optimistic autosuggestion, is known for the quote, "Every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better." Autosuggestion is a form of self-induced suggestion in which individuals use repetition of positive thoughts to guide their beliefs and actions. The more positivity Peter can cultivate for Spider-Man, the more justified he feels. The game leaves us a hint that this mantra is important to him when we find a keychain in one of his backpacks with the exact same Amilcare quote on it. He holds on and cherishes these positive moments as a form of autosuggestion to help guide him. The thank you drawing a child made for Spider-Man after he did the small act of retrieving their lost balloon. A child's hand-drawn comic. The business card Yuri gave him when she finally decided to trust him. The Spidey Squad fan club pin that he uses to remind him that he has fans out there, even when Jameson is loudly tearing him down. So he needs to use these items to remember why he pushes to protect and fight. That's the reason Spider-Man does it. And that's the price that Peter has to pay for it. Peter finds a snow globe he meant to give to his Aunt May that he never did. It's a cheap souvenir of Manhattan. Spider-Man protects the thing that he and his aunt love. So in exchange, Peter's willing to pay that price. A price we're reminded that he's all too familiar with when he finds the baseball ticket of the last game his Uncle Ben took him to.
The terrible memory of his origin story is revealed when we find the Crusher Hogan flyer and we're reminded of the inciting incident. Peter's pursuit to obtain that money for selfish reasons led to the murder of his uncle, a tragedy that haunts him and pushes him to pledge his life using his powers for good, no matter the cost. Because the first chance that Peter had to make a choice of what to do with his powers, the worst possible outcome occurred. After that point, Spider-Man couldn't trust Peter to make those choices anymore. And that's the day that Spider-Man decided the only person he won't save is Peter. What we learn, what we're reminded of, is that people are complex. Our problems are not always black and white. Our day-to-day struggles can be the hardest part of our journey. Is Peter bad with his money, or is Peter just too good? The true cost of Spider-Man's impact on Peter's life are the unique memories scattered in a city he loves, tucked away into hidden red backpacks. Spider-Man will always come first, and it's hard to watch Peter pay the price for it. However, what makes him unique is the willpower he has to persist. If everyone took the time to think about others, we wouldn't have to worry about ourselves, since we would be there for each other. Because if you help someone, you help everyone.